Hello, and thanks for joining me on this video. We're going to take a look at JavaScript classes. They are pretty common in game design and especially common in Phaser classes. And they are similar to objects, but how they work is really handy for designing any type of in-game object or um, a game object that you have more than one copy of. So what we're going to try to do is I'll do a title, script classes. And the idea here is okay, so you have a player or you have a character or you have an enemy inside your game. How do you deal with making copies of that fairly easily? And so let's set up just a simple window.onload. And this, whoops, we can do equals function. And what that's going to do is basically when the window loads, it's going to load anything we have below here. And we do that because we're going to define classes outside of these brackets and later on. And so we need to make sure they're separated here. Okay, so the original way, or let's say character creation. And there's three options. Option one, variables. This is how most people probably start out. And let's go through and if we just so I could show you console log function to make sure this works, let's just do console.log hello. And all right, if we run it, it says hello. Okay, so when the window loads, it works. Great. Okay, so the first option we have for creating a character is to set up a series of variables. So we could do something like const player health equals 10, const player, let's say player name equals MJ, right? So we could do stuff like this. And then we could do const enemy health equals 20, const enemy damage equals 2. So we could set it up like that. And then if we wanted to set up like a function that deals with the attack or the announcement of the player, we could do function attack player. And in that case, we'd have to pass in things like player health and enemy damage. Okay, something like that. And maybe the function would go through and minus the player damage from the health and return that. So that's how our first option. But this gets really complicated fairly quickly because what we have here essentially is a series of variables that we'd have to count for every single player. And then if we have multiple enemies, we'd have to do enemy 1 health, enemy 2 health. We'd have to have a separate function possibly for every time an enemy damages it. And that leads to we're repeating ourselves, we're repeating the function name. So if I wanted to have enemy 1 damage, I might do enemy 1 damage and then enemy 2 damage below it. So I'd have to make multiple copies of this function. And that leads to enemy 1 damage. Oops. This just leads to potential bugs going into your code and you're repeating yourself quite a bit. But this is our first option. If you go through the kind of familiar way of doing it, which is just with variables. So the second option is option 2 is with JavaScript objects and sort of global functions. All right, so what does this look like? So for this one, we might set up a const, what did I say? All right, yeah, const player. And we could set up a object like we showed you in some other videos. If you're not familiar with this or forget this, go back and take a look at one of the other videos on JavaScript objects, because that's essentially what we're doing here. Const player is going to, let's give it a property of health. What do we give it above? 10, sure. 10, we can give it a name property of MJ. Okay, and then below that we might have a const enemy. And that's going to have a, let's see, we give it a health of 20 and damage of 2. All right, and in that case, we might also have a name for this, and we'll do Loki. right, so there's our second object, right? So we have player, health, name, health, damage, name for enemy. And then if we wanted to access those, we might be able to do something like, let's see, function attack. And in that case, we could just pass in player and enemy, and then we can gain access to those properties inside there, right? So remember that you can still gain access by doing something like a player, and then function attack might be a player dot. See, we might do return player dot health minus enemy dot damage. Get access to those properties, and we can just run attack with these objects that we pass in. So that's the second way we can do it. All right. So we have a global attack function. We pass in the objects. And actually, whoops, I go back and change enemy damage, not health. And if we go back up and just take out the function attack players, I'm going to comment out everything up here under option 1 because we're not going to need it. And we can go down here below function attack and console.log attack player enemy, and we get not a number. Why is that not a number? That's a lie. I know why, because I misspelled health. Heath. Now we run it and return. Okay, we see that it works. We can use the attack function to return player.health minus enemy.damage. We pass on the player and the enemy, and we get 8 back. So that tells us basically what the player's health is as a result of that damage. Okay, so this is one way to do it. We can actually, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to hide. Actually, I'm going to copy of it. Control C, and then I'll do Control / to hide all this stuff. And then I'll go down the bottom here and do another copy of it so you can see. The option 3 is to have JavaScript objects with what we call object methods, or basically included functions. So instead of having a separate function attack, we can get rid of that. And what we can do is inside of the objects, because objects can have methods inside of them, can have functions inside of them. What I'll do is below the enemy, const enemy, after Loki, what we can do is I'm going to add a line here, and I'll do attack equals function, and then I'll just console log monster attacks. Okay, and so now what we have is we have a function inside of the enemy. So now if we want to run it inside of our program, we could just simply do enemy dot attack. And if we run it, nothing happens. Why is nothing happening here? Enemy dot attack. Why is this not working now? Oh, there we go. Line 43. Attack equals function. That's right. It's outside the enemy. That's fine. Yeah. It says invalid shorthand property initializer. Oh, no mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. We set it up as a property. Attack. There we go. Function, console log. Now we run it. There we go. Yeah, so we set it up as a property. That was my bad. Okay, so attack, function, console log. All right, so we set it up this way, and that way we can just call on it. And anytime there's an enemy, we don't have to set up a global function like we did up here. Function attack, pass in parameters, all that stuff. We can just go here and get that. And we can even access things just the same. So if we wanted to do similarly what we did up here, we could do something like this. if we return player.health, let me do this dot damage. Let's take a look, and we have to do a console.log enemy attack. There we go. Okay. So this will do the exact same thing as we saw above here, where we return a function, a global function, return a variable. We do it just the same down here, except we set it up as a function of, or a method of the enemy object. Okay, so this works. This is a cleaner way, I think, better organized to think of things as objects that have actions, right? We could have attack, run, defend, all these different things that would have consequences inside the game. Now, what about if we have multiple enemies we want to do? So this could be a real pain, right? So if we want to do multiple enemies, say Thanos or something, we'd have to then go this enemy, 2. And in that case, we'd have to go and customize all these things. And we'd have a pretty long list of enemies that we'd have to make sure that each of these things have the same properties, right? And if we want to create a new enemy, people forget. So you're typing out const enemy 3 and you forget damage or you misspell damage. All of a sudden there's a bug in your code. So there'd be a nice way to actually just make copies of the same code over and over again, right? And that is actually option number 3. So I'm going to take all this console log enemy attack all the way up. Option 4. I'm going to take everything option 3 and highlight all of it and do control / and that hides all of it. And I'm going to go to that bracket there, which is tied to our window on load function. I'm going to go below that. So there should be no brackets around me. And the reason is that, got a little bug here. There we go. Go below it. And the reason is we're going to create a class. And what we're going to do is I'm going to actually put a note here. Option 4 classes. Okay. What are classes? Classes are blueprints that can copy the properties and methods of an object. So it's just going to create a copy of an object. That's all it does. We create it outside of these brackets here, but we're going to call it inside of the brackets so when the window loads. But we have to define it elsewhere. The one thing about a class is that you need to define it before you call it or like instantiate it. So we could put it at the bottom of the bracket here, but traditionally what you do is you add it as like a separate file or as like in the bottom of the file outside of anything so that it's global. Okay, so what are the classes we're going to build? We're going to build a class. And for this one we can do class hero. Okay. And for class hero, we can think about the things that we have above there. And anytime that you begin a class, what we do is there's no parentheses here, and tradition is that the first letter is capitalized. So it's not camel case, it's not lowercase, uppercase, it's capitalized. And what we have to do is call it what's called a constructor function. And this is called when the object is copied. Object or class is copied. And the constructor function looks like that. It has parameters and has brackets. And inside the constructor are the variables that we're looking for this object. So we don't put any parameters up next to hero. We put it down in the constructor function. So name, health. All right. And so every time this is going to be instantiated, we're going to actually ask for a name and health. And then we can use this keyword, this name, this copy of the hero is going to have the name is going to get this parameter we pass in. So this is this right here. Name one. Okay. So the hero class is going to have a variable or a property called name, and it's going to get this name that's entered. So I just name it name, but it might be confusing to you if you're looking at like there's 3 names here. Which name goes to which? This name 1 goes to this name 1, and that gets assigned to the hero name. So I'm going to get rid of those ones for right now. We also have health. So this dot health equals the input of health. Okay. And what else we can do is outside the constructor, we can add methods. So we can do say hello. And for that, I'm just going to do console.log hello. Hello, everybody. I am new here. Okay. So actually, you know what? I'm going to add this. I'm going to add that to our constructor function. We're going to run this once as soon as the program starts. Let's see. Nope. Yeah, I didn't like that. What am I doing here? So say hello. Actually, what we'll do is we'll just get rid of say hello for right now. I'll show you how we can work with that later on. But let's just do a console log. Hello, everybody. I am new here. All right. Now notice when we go to run it, nothing happens. Okay. And the reason for that is because we create a class, we create a template. We now need to create a version of it. All right. So we need to go and actually set it up. So let's go back inside of our window onload function down the bottom here. I had a little comment that says option for classes. And now that we created a class, let's actually go and set it up. I'm going to set up const, let's see, player1. And we create a new copy of this class by using the word new, hero. And here we pass in parentheses. Now, this editor is actually going to try to autocomplete this for me. And it's saying the first thing we have to enter is a name. So I'll do MJ. And then the second thing I have to enter is health. So in that case, I'm just going to enter in, say, 10. Okay. And then if we do console.log player1, click run. Okay, we see two things happening here. We see the actual hero class being created. We see that when it created the class, the constructor was setting up these properties, and it actually went and console logged, hello everybody, I'm new here. And then we went actually and console logged the player one, and this is what it tells us, that the player one is a hero, and then it has the properties of name, MJ, and health 10. If I want to go down and do a const player 2, look how easy this is to create a new player. New hero. We'll just call it player 2 for right now. Give it a health of 10. And console.log p player 2. Okay, we see that the console log is going to run. We see hello everybody, hello everybody. We see MJ player 10, health of 10, player 2, health of 10. So we've created two copies of this same or this hero object with all the properties already ready to go inside of it. Okay. So let's talk about this say hello. Maybe we don't want this to run immediately as soon as our object is created, a copy is created. So let's bring it outside the constructor function. I'm going to move it down a couple of lines so that it's outside that bracket. And here's where I'm going to go back and enter where I had it of say hello. Add that back in as brackets. I'm going to add brackets and close it. Okay, so now say hello is a function. We don't have to write function. Classes already know that's a function. It even says that we highlight over it and hover over it. It says method, right? Hero.sayHello. It tells us how to access it. Basically, we have to say that hero's name and say hello. And now when we click run, notice that the hero we is just running with the console logs. It's console logging each of the player, but watch what happens here. Let's do player 1, do dot, and then we see say hello as an option. We got to add parentheses because it's a function. And now we click run. Hello, basically hero. My name, let's see, MJ's name is MJ, health 10. And it's only running once because we only asked it for the player 1 to say hello. Okay, but it gets even better. We have this dot name and this dot health. Okay, we have these variables inside of this that we can access. So let's change console log. Hello everybody, I'm new here. Let's add in. Let's see. My name is, and then we can just do plus, and then we can do this dot name. We'll access this name property. And now let's click run. Hello, everybody. I am new here. My name is MJ. Now, this gets cool too. Is if we go down here and do player 2, say hello, parentheses, we run it. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm new here. My name is MJ. Hello, I am new here. My name is P2. Okay. Why is it P2? Because we set the player name to be P2. Because this is a class hero, anything we do to this class is going to affect every other time we have this available. So if you have an object, enemy 1, and you make a change to that object, then you have to go back in there and find the object, make the change to it, make sure you're referencing the same object. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And if you want to say add maybe power or armor to each enemy, then you have to go back to each object and actually add in that that value, be power, um, 5 or something. Okay, you have to go and do that for every single enemy you have, and that's going to take time. Right here with a class, we can just do it once, and it's you're all set. Okay, our hero. All right, so that's looking pretty good. We have added all this stuff. Now, there's one other thing we can do. Oh, maybe we add in a class of an enemy. Now, with this enemy, we're going to have it have a name and health, but we're going to add in damage. So what we can do is actually we're going to create what's called a child class. And a child inherits all the properties and methods of the parent. So meaning that because in the hero class, we created a name and health, this class enemy, we can add in its own properties, but we can use the word extends hero. And what we just did there is actually say, okay, this enemy class is going to be an extension, a child of the hero class, and we want to give it all these other things here. Okay. So what's that look like? Basically, for an enemy, let's put a comment here. Extending a class to a child class. Okay. What we can do is we set up a constructor just the same. And for this one, what this is going to do is it's going to accept the variables that we want to use inside of this this enemy. So meaning that if we look at something like, well, let's take in a name and let's take in some damage. Okay. All right. So then we have constructor, name, and damage. And let's add in what else we want to do. Let's do console.log. Let's see, name says hello. Okay, so enemy extends hero, constructor, name and damage, and we'll just do name for right now. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so let's go back up to our function we're working on, window on load. And I'm going to get rid of the P1, P2, say hellos. I'm going to get rid of those for right now. And I'm going to add a new const enemy. 1 is going to equal new enemy. And we can see there it wants a name. So Loki's going to make a return. And then damage, 2. Enemy's going to do 2 damage, okay? And then if we, let's see if we run it. Nope, what am I forgetting? Let's see, new enemy, Loki 1. Constructor damage. Oh, it's probably going to yell at us. Yeah, all right. So why is it saying this? Okay. So we can't necessarily use this yet, right? So usually we do this. We would normally do something like this dot name equals name. But this is going to, and then down here we do this dot name, just like we did above, okay? But we already did above. We already did it in the hero class. So we're extending that. We're accepting that. And what it's saying is that because it's a child class, it's going to inherit this dot name. We don't necessarily want it to. We want to give it its own name. And if we want to be able to customize this on our own and do things like it does above, we have to use a keyword called super. And what super is going to do is it's going to, you can think of it almost like superseding, although it's not exactly like that, but it's going to basically override any of the stuff we have in the parent class. Or we can basically access the parent constructor function with name and health by calling super. So let's use it that way. Let's use super to give or access the hero constructor, and let's give it a name and health. So for this one, we're going to pass in this name to down here. I'm actually going to do e name, so enemy name, so you can see what's happening here. E name. And what else do we want? So damage will be local to just the enemy. Super E name and health. For health, let's just give it. Actually, we can pass in the same thing. E health. Let's add that as one of the constructor. And then E health. Okay. So let's go back up here to Loki. We have the name Loki. We have E health. Okay. And now I'm going to hide this console log for a second here. Now we run it. Unexpected token, super, 89. What am I forgetting? Oh, I'm forgetting my brackets at the end of constructor. Duh. Super needs to go inside those brackets. That's why it was yelling at us. That's probably why the console log didn't work either. There we go. All right, so then super E name and health. Let's go up here and let's console log enemy 1. Okay, so we see enemy name Loki, health 2. Okay, so what didn't we do? Well, here we have constructor ename, eHealth, damage. We entered the damage parameter, but we haven't used it yet. We used ename and eHealth, right? We passed those two things, and basically those are going to work just like up here. And we can prove that. We don't need a console log this name hello, because I'm going to show you what we can do. Because we basically used the enemy, we passed in new parameters. Think of this as, like I said, this is the same thing as doing the parent constructor parameters. When we create an enemy, we give it these items. We pass it to the parent constructors for the same purposes. When we console log enemy 1, we can do, let's see, we console log enemy 1, and we can also do enemy 1 dot say hello. All right. So say hello. We did not define it in this enemy class, but it's a child of hero because we extended hero, meaning that it inherited say hello, right? So like, if your family, your parents, your guardians, they buy a house when you're a kid, and they move, you move with them, right? You inherit everything that they have. And that's what we're seeing here with enemies. So let's see what happens here. So we have enemy 1 say hello. Does it know what that is? All right. So not only does it know what it is, okay, enemy 1 now has the say hello function because we've extended it from the hero function, or the hero class. Okay, it now says, I am here and my name is Loki. How does say hello know what Loki is, or who Loki is? So how does it even know that name, right? We defined Loki as an enemy, not as a hero. Well, because we inherited say hello, okay, when we did say hello, it says console log hello buddy, my name, I'm new here, my name is this dot name. Well, essentially this dot name, okay, is coming from name, and name is coming from the constructor parameter, which we passed in here. So essentially just variables that are bouncing from place to place to place to place, eventually till they get to the final spot, which is outputting the hero.name. All right, now let's talk about the damage. We haven't dealt with damage yet. That's the last part. So for damage, what we can do is we don't need to go inside this super, but we'll do into the constructor. All we have to do is this dot damage. Remember that the parent, the hero, does not have damage inside of it. It only has name and health. So damage is going to be special to our enemy. and damage. So now when we call Loki, we could say it has 2 health. Well, that's pretty low. Let's do enemy health. Let's do 20 health for Loki. And then we see damage here. It's trying to autocomplete and suggest to us. Let's do 2 damage for Loki. And let's console log it. And then we see enemy. We see name Loki. Health is 20 and damage is 2. Let's do one more. Let's do const enemy 2 equals new enemy. Let's do Thanos. And let's give it health of 100 and damage of 1,000. Right? He's got the gauntlet. Okay, so at this point, let's see damage. Let's run it again. We forgot to console log Thanos. Let's console.log enemy 2. We run it, and we say enemy 2 is Thanos, health 100, damage 1,000. So here we have a way of making a template, and then we have ways of copying that template like we did with our players up here. And then we also see a way of adding to that template by making essentially like a child copy of it that gets all the goodies of the parents. But we don't need to use all those things, and we get to add our own stuff to it. So you take the existing capabilities and then add on to it. So there's no reason why you couldn't create a character class that has all the things you would expect for all characters to have, X, Y position, a sprite, a health, damage, armor, all that different good stuff. And then do class player extends character, right? You'll see this a lot in games. Or class, enemy extends sprite, right? Like in Phaser, you extend sprite and get all those goodies that sprite gives you. So yeah, that's all the things we can do with classes, and we're running through a couple more experiments of these to take a look at how we can use these actually in Phaser. But I wanted to give you a quick introduction to them so that you're familiar with them, what they're doing, and how they work. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.